Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We're learning Mishna Kesubos, Perek Gimel, chapter 13, Mishnah Yud Aleph, Mishnah 11. Today we'll be completing this Masechta, the Masechta of Kesubos, and in Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow we begin a new Masechta, a new tractate, which is Nedarim. Okay. So yesterday we discussed about how the fact that within Eretz Yisrael itself there are three regions for marriage, and how what circumstances you can make your family move with you, which ones you can't. Now, here the Mishnah talks about continues that discussion. Hakol malin la'eretz Yisrael. One can make all members of a household go live in Eretz Yisrael. Ve'ein hakol meitzian, and no one can force them to leave. When it comes to Eretz Yisrael, everybody has to go, and you can make everybody go, and that includes, as the Baratanura speaks out, if a father, or we're going to see a mother, wants to move to Eretz Yisrael, he or she can insist that the entire household, including the spouse, unmarried children, and their Jewish servants, go along. This is true. Jewish servants here, the Baratanura explains as what we call an Eved Ivri. An Eved Ivri means a Jewish slave. We would call him more like an indentured worker. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have his freedom just to go off. He's got to stay with this. Generally, he has to stay with the people who he has to work for. And if any of these people, if any of these leaders of the household, so to speak, if they decide to go to Eretz Yisrael, he's got to go along. And this is true even if it means moving from a good place of residence to a bad one. That was yesterday, remember? The good residence place and the bad residence place. The place where the food is plentiful and inexpensive, and the place where where food is not so available and expensive. We had a Mishnah there previously saying that you can't force someone to go from the bad to the good, or from the good to even from the good to the bad, according to Bishum and Gamliel. When it comes to Eretz Yisrael, irrelevant. Even if you're going from a good place of residence to a bad, you can make them go. Not only that, even if you're going from a city with a Jewish majority to one with a majority of idolaters, the only place you could find to go in Eretz Yisrael was a place where the majority of people are not Jewish. And you're coming from a place that was Jewish, that was a majority city Jewish, which was something the Mishnah did not speak out yesterday, but the Bartanura says is also included in when we say an area where you could force someone to go to, but you can't force someone to go in the previous Mishnah. If you're going from a city of majority Jewish to a majority non-Jewish, you can't force them to go there. Well, if it's a difference of moving to Eretz Yisrael or not, you could. Basically, that would mean if the only place you could find in Eretz Yisrael was in a city where there are a majority of non-Jews, nonetheless, you can force your family to go there. So that's Eretz Yisrael. And the reason Eretz Yisrael is different is because it's a mitzvah to live in Eretz Yisrael. Since it's a mitzvah to live in Eretz Yisrael, therefore, if you're ready to do the mitzvah, no one can stop you, and they have to come along and be there with you. And if they don't want to go with you, if your wife doesn't want to go, you can divorce her and not give her a ksuba. Now, that's the first part of the Mishnah. Next, Hakol Malin Yerushalayim, but Hakol Maitzian. You can actually force all the members. You can force everyone can make all the members of their household move to Yerushalayim, and not force them to leave. Yerushalayim is considered the holiest place of Eretz Yisrael, the holiest city of Eretz Yisrael, and therefore you can force them to have to go ahead and to live there. And again, the same idea. Even if it means moving to Yerushalayim means you're moving from a good residence to a bad residence, doesn't make a difference. You can make them go, and you cannot make them leave. Now, Echad HaNashim v'Echad HaNashim. This applies to both men and women. That means not only if a man wants to move to Yerushalayim or to Eretz Yisrael, he can force the rest of the family. If the wife wants to do that, she can force everyone to go there. And if the husband says, no, they're not going, she can demand a get, a divorce, and a ksuba, because he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And therefore, in this case, both the men and the women have that right to compel the rest of the family. Okay, new discussion. Nasa Isha Eretz Yisrael, the Gersh of Eretz Yisrael. A person married a woman in Eretz Yisrael, and he divorced in Eretz Yisrael. And in this case, it doesn't make a difference where they originally came from. I didn't finish. I'm sorry. Nasi ish Eretz Yisrael, v'gerish Eretz Yisrael. He married a woman in Eretz Yisrael. He divorced her in Eretz Yisrael. Noisein la mima'is Eretz Yisrael. When he pays her a ksuba, which currency does he use? He uses the currency of Eretz Yisrael. He married her there. He divorced her there. The conservatives, they're here, as we're going to see, there's difference between in other cases, but in this case, everybody agrees the currency used is the money from Eretz Yisrael. Now, let me read to you here a little bit from the bottom. Paying here means paying the basic ksuba, right? 200 for a virgin, 100 for a non-virgin. And the ksuba itself did not stipulate what kind of currency we're using. And therefore, in that situation, we say, the Mishnah teaches that even if the husband and wife were from some other country and never lived in Eretz Yisrael, the ksuba is paid in the currency of Eretz Yisrael if it is where they happen to get married and divorced. If that's where everything took place, even if they don't come from there, they never lived there, but they got married there, and they got divorced there, the halacha is that the currency you use is the money of Eretz Yisrael. Now, next case. Nasa isha Eretz Yisrael. He married a woman in Eretz Yisrael, v'gersha b'kaputkia, and he divorced her in a place called Kaputkia. Now, Mr. Geography, they call this in the Art Scroll translation as, I'll spell it for you because I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it.
Latakia?
What'd you say?
Latakia?
Nope. Almost. Cappadocia.
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 That's in Turkey.
Okay, so
I was there.
Okay, so that is what they are referring to here by Kaputkia, all right? And they chose Kaputkia because it may be in Turkey, but they say it wasn't far from Eretz Yisrael. That's what it says here.
Thanksgiving.
Okay, now, the case again. Nasi Isha Eretz Yisrael. He married a woman in Eretz Yisrael. Excuse me. The Gerish Kaputkia, and he divorced her in Kaputkia. All right. He has to pay her the ksuba. She wants her ksuba. Okay, and he has to pay her. Which currency does he use? From where he married or from where he divorced? Answer says the Mishnah, Naisin la mima'is Eretz Yisrael. He has to give her money from Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because when they got married, that is when he became obligated to pay a ksuba, right? The contract, he was contracted to pay a ksuba in Eretz Yisrael. Well, if that's where the obligation took effect, well, so that's what you follow. You follow Eretz Yisrael. All right, next part of the Mishnah. The opposite case. Nas Isha Kaputkia. He married the woman in Kaputkia. The Gerish of Eretz Yisrael. He divorced in Eretz Yisrael. Which currency does he use? Says the Mishnah, Eretz Yisrael. Still, give her the money, you pay her with the money from Eretz Yisrael. Now, what's the difference between Kaputkia money and Eretz Yisrael money? The answer is that the coins of Kaputkia were larger and heavier than those of Eretz Yisrael. Don't forget, we're dealing here with weight, right? Coins were evaluated by their weight. Thus, a zuz of Kaputkia was worth more than a zuz of Eretz Yisrael. Again, the stipulation of the Mishnah is, of the Ksuba is 200 zuz. What kind of zuz? So right now, the Mishnah is saying, in either case, whether he married her in Eretz Yisrael or in Kaputkia, according to this part of the Mishnah, you only have to pay the Eretz Yisrael money. Why? Because, as the Bartuner explains, although you got married in Kaputkia, which means the obligation of the Ksuba took effect in Kaputkia, nonetheless, the sages were lenient. Why? Because the payment of a Ksuba, according to this opinion of the Mishnah, is rabbinic in nature. It's midrabanan, and therefore, for that, the sages were lenient on him and said, you can go with the lesser money, the easier money. You can go with the lesser money, which is the money of Eretz Yisrael. Okay. Shimon Gamliel says, you got married in Kaputkia, you're going to have to pay the Kaputkia money. Why? What's the point of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? The Bartanur explains, according to Shimon Gamliel, the obligation to pay a ksuba is a Torah obligation. And since it's a Torah obligation to pay the ksuba, then there's no place for leniency. You got to go according to the letter of the law, which would say that he was contracted to pay his ksuba when he got married, which was in Kaputkia, and therefore you got to pay according to that money. Okay, so that is where we have a machloikis, where he got married in Kaputkia and he divorced in Eretz Yisrael. Nasa isha bekaputkia. If, let's say, he married a woman in Kaputkia, the Gersha bekaputkia, and he divorced her in Kaputkia. Here, according to all opinions, you give her the Kaputkia money. That's where he was contracted to pay the ksuba. That's where they are when they're divorced. And therefore, according to all opinions, even according to the opinion before, that when he married in Kaputkia and divorced in Eretz Yisrael, he used Eretz Yisrael money. Here, where they're not even getting divorced in Eretz Yisrael, they're getting divorced in Kaputkia. That's where they married, that's where they divorced. Everybody agrees that that in this case, the ksuba has to be paid with Kaputkian money. So, Mazel Tov, we have completed Baruch Hashem, Mishna Kesubos, and tomorrow we will start a new Mishnah, a new Masechta. Have a wonderful day.
Yes,
He'd have to